From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Good evening. Welcome to SportsLine here on News Channel 5 Plus. I'm Jon Burton with you for the next hour. Your phone calls are certainly welcome. Tonight we're going to talk Titans and Preds as we kind of put a bow on the Titans season and take a look at the Predators, where they are at the All-Star break. The Preds with a 4-2 win last night over the Vancouver Canucks at Bridgestone Arena. Coming up at 8:15, we'll talk more Preds with Robby Stanley, who is a local hockey writer, of course, and co-hosts on 102.5 The Game with Joe Rexroth here locally. So we will get Robby's thoughts on the Predators. Again, your phone calls are welcome. And, of course, still a lot of fallout from the Titans, who, by the way, their general manager, John Robinson, a lot of their scouts in Mobile this week for the Senior Bowl. JR and his staff getting a look at some of the players that will be eligible to be drafted later on in April. And, of course, the NFL Combine coming up. So really no rest for the weary for the Titans as they look to build upon a 12-win season this year. But, of course, a season that ended in disappointment for the Two-Tone Blue with that loss to the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC divisional playoff game. So we'll get Robby's thoughts on the Titans as well as we move forward on tonight's show as well. So JR and his staff in Mobile checking out the Senior Bowl. And, of course, it doesn't appear that the Titans are going to draft a quarterback this year, maybe in the middle to late rounds, but certainly or probably not in the first round. But, of course, a lot of talk lately has been about Ryan Tannehill. He of the 3 interceptions in the playoff loss to the Bengals a little more than a week ago. And certainly a lot is being talked about in terms of Ryan Tannehill's future as the Tennessee Titans. Should the Titans stick with him? Should they move on from him? They're kind of stuck in terms of salary. He would cost a lot of money if they were to part ways with him right now against the salary cap. So obviously a hot button topic, Ryan Tannehill, and whether or not he can still be the guy for the Tennessee Titans to get them to that elusive Super Bowl win. One thing we pretty much know, he will be the Titans starting quarterback next year. Beyond that, certainly we do not know. Earlier this week on the Electric Power Company's Sunday Sports Central, our guy Steve Lehman and, of course, our Titans and NFL analyst Jonathan Hutton from Outkick 360 discussed everything going on with the Titans, including Ryan Tannehill and, of course, the coaching situation involving Mike Vrabel and his staff. Take a look.
Bring Jonathan Hutton back in here. We talked last week about Tannehill's game, but moving forward, no matter what he, Mike Vrabel, and the Titans are saying, what will you have to see to believe that Tannehill can get it done for this team in the playoffs?
Well, it's going to happen in the playoffs. He needs to step up and show he can make some big throws in the postseason without turning it over. He's great for this team and this offense during the regular season. We've all watched him play well against some really good teams. And in the playoffs, just look at the recent quarterbacks to win the trophy. Quarterbacks crank up their play to another level. It's just a different shelf. And the top quarterbacks usually step up and make critical throws when it matters most. They're in control. They're calm in pressure moments. They don't lose you ball games. And Tannehill's postseason play isn't even on par with the regular season version of what we know he can produce. With his playmakers in the lineup, he threw 3 interceptions last week. He threw 14 picks this year, more than his previous 2 seasons combined, and that's not good enough.
And you talk about the quarterbacks elevating their level. Tannehill's struggle is only emphasized by the guys around him in the league. You got Mahomes, you got Allen, now you got Burrow, Justin Herbert, go on and on and on. Are the Titans in any better position than any of those teams moving forward with Tannehill?
Well, right now, no, just based on results. They're just in that group. Keep in mind, it's really hard to be in a better position than they were this year. 12-5, 17-0. They could do no better than the top spot hosting the AFC divisional round. This team tends to play better, though, when no one's talking about them and no one expects them to do that much. And congrats, they accomplished that. Instead of taking a huge step forward, they fell back in line, but not to the back of the line. But you're right, Steve. The AFC is stacked with young quarterbacks, and that's why what happened on offense in this postseason is so disappointing. They let a legitimate chance at a title leave on the Bengals team bus.
Yes, they did. The playoff loss did lead to a bit of a shakeup on Mike Vrabel's staff. He parted ways with 4 assistants, including linebackers coach Jim Haslett. But the guy everyone was asking about this week, Todd Downing, pretty much got a ringing endorsement.
I think Todd does a great job. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a hard worker. There's always going to be calls you'd like to have back. There's plays you'd like to have back. But I try to see how guys communicate with each other, the players. Are we all on the same page? How do we do on third down? How do we do in the red zone?
All right, you just look at the film here from last week, and it's clear Downing did not have a good day and didn't help Tannehill out much. First play of the game, maybe outthinking themselves a bit with Derrick Henry back, and Jesse Bates was sitting on that play right from the start. We know from sideline audio, Mike Hilton knew that was coming from the formation and what the Bengals defense was doing. It was called an automatic check into a screen. He was all over it for the terrific interception. And then the Bengals, of course, had the Titans' tendencies totally mapped out on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 here in the 4th quarter. It wasn't good. But last year, the defense stunk, and Mike Vrabel stuck with Shane Bowen, and they came back much improved this season. Jonathan, is there any reason to believe Downing could have a similar turnaround, especially with presumably much better health offensively?
Well, in thinking about this, the only reason for optimism is to trust that their offensive evaluation will identify where they fell short and what they're going to be able to do to instantly correct it with better play calling and adjusted personnel. Injuries played a factor in all of this, but it wasn't the only reason why we saw what we saw. One thing they can't do is just sweep this under the rug, because if they do that, Steve, we're going to get the same result.
Yeah, very disappointing, that is for sure. Titans defensive staffer could be on the move. Defensive consultant Jim Schwartz is set to interview with the Colts. Schwartz is in his 2nd stint in Nashville, but he'll interview for Indy's defensive coordinator job, vacated when Matt Eberflus became the Bears' new head coach. Jonathan, it wasn't totally clear what role Schwartzy had with the defense this year, but he was the one big staff change from last year, and we saw what happened on the field. So how concerned are you if he leaves, especially to go join forces with the Colts?
It's a really difficult question to answer because no one in the football offices wanted to talk about it. Schwartz was in an advisory role here, and what he did was more in the building than on the field. He would walk around and be an observer during practice. He was dialed in on those details, but he wasn't coaching all that much. But he brought an experienced set of eyes that definitely gave advice and knowledge to the defensive group. Without a doubt, he helped them. And I hope he gets the Colts job personally, because he's a great guy who is far from being done coaching, and he's worked with Frank Reich in the past. So the Colts makes sense.
Yeah, really good football coach. And now those eyes in the building could be looking back at the Titans offense with the Colts next year.
Steve Lehman and Jonathan Hutton with a pretty good look at, how the team feels about Ryan Tannehill, of course, and a bit of a coaching shake-up amongst Mike Vrabel's staff with the Tennessee Titans. And certainly all good points there. But as we all know, it begins and ends with the quarterback. And once again, Ryan Tannehill under fire after his 3-interception performance in the loss to the Bengals in the AFC divisional playoff game. Here now is a closer look at the Titans' embattled QB.
Since becoming the Titans starter midway through the 2019 season, Ryan Tannehill has one of the best regular season win-loss records in the NFL. But the regular season is not the playoffs. After leading Tennessee to 12 wins and a 2nd straight AFC South Division title, Tannehill tossed 3 costly interceptions in the Titans' upset loss to the Bengals in the AFC divisional playoff game. His final one near midfield helped to set up Cincinnati's game-winning field goal.
It's going to hurt for a long time. It's going to be on my mind for a long time. It's going to take a long time to get over. Yeah, you don't look forward to this situation. You don't look forward to being out when you had a great opportunity.
When you lose the turnover margin in the way that we did at different points along the season, it is really, really hard to win.
The loss to the Bengals marked the Titans' 3rd straight playoff loss, all 3 with Tannehill under center, bringing to question whether or not he's capable of leading the Titans to a Super Bowl. But the players and coaches all still believe Tannehill is the right man for the job.
He's shown signs of accuracy, of decision-making, to the ability to extend plays and to scramble and leadership.
The past 3 years he's been here, When you look at all-time Titan quarterbacks and things like that, he's right up there at the top. So obviously he's meant a lot to this team. I know for a fact he'll come back next year stronger than ever, try to make another run at this thing.
He's a strong guy. He's a strong guy, and I know a lot of people down on him right now, but, it's a team game,
Fairly or unfairly, quarterbacks are judged on how they perform in the playoffs. And Ryan Tannehill knows full well how he plays in the postseason will likely determine his legacy here in Tennessee.
We got to win. We got to win in these critical playoff games. We overcame a lot to be here, but at the end of the day, we have to play really good and make the plays necessary to win the games in January.
Now, you heard A.J. Brown, the Titans wide receiver, in that piece saying something that was pretty poignant, that it is a team game. One man can't win it or lose it. But you look at how the NFL playoffs went this year. We had some amazing games, mainly because we had some amazing performances by quarterbacks. And you look at the two teams in the Super Bowl, the L.A. Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. They're there largely because their quarterbacks played well when needed to be. You heard Jonathan Hutton say that, in the playoffs, that's when quarterbacks have to be at their best. That's when they have to play their best. That's when they have to be calm and make the throws and make the plays that are going to win football games. Ryan Tannehill was great. Well, he was really good during the regular season. Last year he was great. This year he was really good in the regular season. But the Titans have now lost 3 straight playoff games dating back to the 2019 AFC Championship game. And in all 3 games, Ryan Tannehill did not play good enough for his team to win and advance. So something to look for during the offseason. How does Ryan Tannehill rebound from such a tough playoff performance with the 3 interceptions in the loss to the Bengals? All right, time for our first break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk about hockey. The Preds getting a win, heading into the All-Star break, 4-2 last night over the Vancouver Canucks. We're going to talk all things Preds with our guy, Robby Stanley from 102.5 The Game. And, of course, he's also a longtime hockey writer as well, knows the Preds about as well as anybody. It'll be good to catch up with Robby Stanley. That's next here on SportsLine. Stay with us.